guys, are you looking to be able to do a little bit more work to your own guns than you were before? Are you wondering what tools that you need to be able to do it? Stick around and we'll help you out. Hey guys, Work here. Welcome back to the bench. So today we are doing a video that has been spurred by a couple of requests that I've gotten over the last couple of weeks. I've had 4 or 5 different people ask me some questions about tools. So what we're going to go over today is some of the tools that I have and I recommend you get for your at-home gunsmithing. Now, I do want to precurse this a little bit. I am not a gunsmith. I'm a dude in my basement that fiddles around with guns. So take this all with a grain of salt, as I'm just a hobbyist messing around. So one of the first things that you're going to notice when you start working on guns is firearms are put together with pins. Lots of pins. You've got roll pins, spring pins, press pins. You've got pins that are held in with springs and detents, all sorts of different pins. And these pins are all going to be removed using punches. So decent punches are one of the top things that you need to get as an at-home gun hobbyist. Now, as I'm going through these things, remember, I'm going to have Amazon affiliate links to most of this stuff down in the description down below. If you click on one of those links, it is going to help me out a little bit. So first up, I've got my punch set. Now, this is a Gunmaster Punch Set. If we open it up here, what we've got is a nice assortment of different punches. Down here on the bottom, we've got our steel punches. We've got our brass punches that resist scratching surfaces in quite a few different finishes. Over here, we've got plastic punches. Now, their plastic punches were a little on the weak side. I actually broke the 15/84 punch, I believe getting a sight out, one of the CZ front sights out. And then up here on the top is the thing that this kit really has, that is what you kind of need one of these more professional kits to get. And that is roll pin punches. Now, these are not starter punches. These are just standard roll pin punches. A roll pin punch is a normal punch, but it's got a little nipple down at the end of the punch. And what that nipple does is that centers the punch on that roll pin so that you don't end up coming off the ends. You're always going to be nice and centered on that roll pin. Now, this particular kit also comes with a nice little hammer. It does have a nice bit of weight to it, and it does have a nylon end here, so it's non-marring on this end, and a nice steel face over here for those really stubborn pins. So setting this aside, in addition to that set of punches, I also have just my bunch of punches that I have here. A couple of punches that come in really handy. If you work on CZs and you're pulling apart the insides of CZs, particularly the hammer assembly with the disconnector and the hammer strut, you're going to need one of these. This is a starter punch. This also is really useful for getting out the sear cage pin. So this is an extremely hard, nice and pointed punch, and this is really good for the initial whack that you need to be able to get through the staked pins on a lot of different pieces in a CZ. Again, particularly the hammer and the sear cage pins. But I've used this on my 1911 so far. It worked great in there as well, and this is a really good thing to have. Another useful set of specific punches are the aluminum punches from Dawson. Aluminum is a softer metal than steel, so these are going to be non-marring. In addition to being aluminum, this one actually has a nylon tip on it, which is really nice, and Dawson includes these with most of their sight sets. So I actually just picked up a new sight set from Dawson, and it included a punch set. So along with that, another specialty punch set that I have is for AR-15 receivers, particularly the bolt catch on them. For those of you who put AR-15s together quite a bit, the bolt catch is placed uncomfortably close to the side, and in order to get the proper roll pin punch there, you're going to be hitting the side of the receiver. So what these punch sets do, first of all, we've got a starter punch set, which actually receives the roll pin down inside it, and it slightly compresses it every time you hit it. And these punch sets are taller than the lower is, and they've got a bit of a crescent moon shape cut to them to be able to fit right up against the receiver, so you're not trying to hit them at an angle as you would with something else of this width and length. So those are really nice if you end up putting together a lot of AR-15 lowers. And again, I got these things on Amazon. You can find a link to those in the description below as well. So the rest of my punches that I have here are just random punches that I've gotten throughout the years, and I've got a couple of different Harbor Freight punches. So I think that I've bought 2 of these punch sets, and they're They're not very high quality punches, but these are really good, just useful punches. You get a lot of different sizes. They're really affordable. They're not going to be as hard as my other punches here, but as you see, this one has seen better days. But these are great for kind of throwaway projects, or if you just need to be able to push something out. Like, take Glocks for instance. Glocks don't require you to have to pound out the pins. You just need to push them, and these are great for those applications. Or if you need a nice backing to be able to press something up against, also a good option. And the last kind of thing that I've got here in my punches, other than just the random stuff, is a couple of Harbor Freight punches. Now this one comes in this bag like this. I don't remember exactly how much this is. I'll see if I can post a link to in the description to these as well, but these are just a bunch of chisel punches that they've got. You've got cold chisels here, a number of cold chisels. You've got a number of nice pointed chisels and a bunch of nice flat punches here. And I think this set can be had for under $10 if memory serves. That is it as far as punches go. Now you're gonna notice as I'm going through my tools here, I don't have like a whole bunch of super high brand name tools because, I mean, what else would a guy who's got an entire playlist called Tactical Cheap Shit have? Really? But what I do have has worked extremely well for me. Now, nobody has asked about the bench, but the bench is just a workbench from Harbor Freight again, and I've got a backing on it up here. The backing is pegboard, and that gives me quick access to a lot of different tools back there. I've got a lot of tools down below here in some drawers, and a lot of tools up there, and then up above here I've actually got a shelf with a lot of spare parts and other things. So in that same drawer that I've got my punches down here, I've also got the beginning of my drivers. Now, again, these are Harbor Freight specials. I've also got a bunch of loose Allen wrenches down there. Allen wrenches are something that I find that you can never have quite enough of, because whenever you need a certain size, like if I were to need a 1/16 of an inch one, it's missing, as is my 3/32 one. So they're down in there somewhere. I'm not 100% sure where, but it's always good to have a number of drivers. And this is the start of mine, just a couple of Allen sets. You do need metric and English. So switching modes to drivers now, that'll be screwdrivers of Phillips, standard, any of the Torx bits, Allen head bits, anything like that. So my primary go-to for gun work is a Winchester kit that was given to me by my dad for my birthday a few years ago. Probably a lot of years ago now. Now it's a relatively simple kit. It's just got a handle here and quite a few options for drivers. Now, the couple of things that I do really like about this kit is, one, it has parallel grind standard heads, in addition to whatever the hell this thing's called. And it's got quite a few Phillips and a lot of really nice, very small standard screwdrivers. And this thing has served me pretty well. Very few situations do I get into with guns that I need to get something else out. So this is what I go to for a lot of like finish work. If I'm just doing rough stuff, I'll reach right up here and I'll grab my Pittsburgh little T-drive here. It's a ratcheting T-drive with, this is kind of nifty. Pop that and out pop the bits. So those go back up in there, and it is really nice because with a little pull of this, you can pull this out by quite a bit and give yourself quite a reach with this guy. So that's really nice and useful. I've also got a set of standard just screwdrivers up here that aren't the interchangeable bits. And if there's anything else that I need that I don't have readily available, I do have like a 3-tiered drill bit and driver set way down on the shelf next to the floor that has pretty much anything I could ever need under the sun. So let's go ahead and put our bits away now. And going back down to the same drawer that we keep our punches in the back of that drawer is my tap and die set. So my tap and die set is a pretty old set. These are actually Harbor Freight T-grips here with some decent collets on here. These work pretty well. I don't ever have anything slip in them, but they're not the most comfortable thing either, but they work really well. They work way better than this stock one that came with this kit. And as I said, this kit is very old, but works like a charm. It's been almost everything that I need so far, except for This little guy, I had to buy a new tap back when we were doing the TFX Pro sight rework to be able to get that new set screw in there. But everybody needs a tap and die set, a quality one in this case. I would not recommend going to Harbor Freight for the taps and dies themselves, because if you break a tap, you are going to be very pissed at yourself for not spending the adequate amount and just getting the good set. Okay, so back down in that same drawer is part of my supplies for sharpening and doing trigger work and a lot of other stuff, and that is my stones. So I got this off of, I don't remember where I got it, some cheap Chinese website maybe, or it might have been Amazon. If it was Amazon, take a look for the link in the description below. But this kit came with everything from 180 grit stone all the way up to a 3000 grit stone. And I've used this set for a lot of different projects. I've used it for triggers, I've used it for knives, and it does an excellent job. So moving from there, I've got my jeweler's files. Now, jeweler's files are really nifty little files to have. I have done a lot of work with these on metal and plastic. I mean, you can see it in the teeth here. I actually need a new set, which is good because this set costs, I don't know, probably like 10 bucks at Harbor Freight. I've used these on pretty much every CZ build I've made. I used it on my 1911 build. I use it on AR builds, and it's a really nice set. They're really good for finished filing work, and they do come with a really nice single textured triangular file, which is really good for sights, for being able to file the dovetail on sights without scratching up the rest of the sight too much. So again, those are Harbor Freight, maybe like 5 or 10 bucks. Next up is my pick set. Again, we're looking at Harbor Freight with the pick set. Picks don't need to be super high quality. You're not doing a lot of like heavy, strong work with these, but they do need to have a nice fine point at the end because you're going to be doing a lot of grabbing and a lot of digging and a lot of poking with these things. So pick set, these are super cheap from Harbor Freight as well, like maybe 2 or 3 bucks for this set. Next up, we're backtracking a little bit, is back to our drivers. A good set of like mini screwdrivers, like the watchmaker screwdriver sets with like 6 or 8 different drivers is a really good idea to have, because not only are some screws really tiny, but these screwdrivers are the perfect shape to be able to get down into certain little divots and stuff to grab pins or spring ends or whatever else. I use this one specifically to grab the spring end that retains the decocker lever in my PO1 and my SPO1. So next up, going back to files and stuff, I suggest a lot of sandpaper. Different grits of sandpaper. We've got some 1500, some 1000. I believe I'm out of 2000 right now. But different grits of sandpaper. I go with automotive wet dry sandpaper. This stuff can be had at any automotive store. You can grab this stuff at Walmart. It's not cheap, but it is some of the best sandpaper you're gonna get. It's wet dry. It's extremely high grit and high quality. So you're not going to be losing grit coming off. The only problem that you're going to have is pieces and particles getting stuck in the grit and kind of rendering that section useless. But automotive sandpaper, I highly recommend it. There are a lot of times that instead of going to the stones, I'll use sandpaper instead, and this is really good. For my PO1 project, the majority of the polishing that I did on the trigger bar of that particular project, right here. Next up, is going to sound kind of funny, but you can never have enough knives. I've got 2 more knives that are just sitting right up here. Super easy to get a hold of. I don't use these very often, but what I do use all the time are the massive amount of pocket knives that I've got in this drawer down here. You know, these are all my past EDC knives for the most part. Knives that I just don't carry anymore for various reasons. This particular one has serrations. I don't like serrations. This one is just kind of getting old, and I replaced it with my current EDC blade. This one I got in a tack pack and never carried it because it doesn't lock easily. And then here's the folding razor because, well, I've actually got a review on this. It's a cool knife, but not great for me personally to EDC. So knives, always super useful. Another thing that you need, pencils. It sounds stupid, but I mark a lot of different things as I'm putting guns together, or sight jobs. Sight jobs especially. I will mark the center line of the sights that are on the pistol, especially on CZs and Glocks, because that front sight is fixed. So the back sight's going to need to be in approximately the same spot. So if that back sight is a 1/16 of an inch left or right, it's probably going to need to be reinstalled approximately a 1/16 of an inch left or right. And the last thing that I've got in that particular drawer is Something that a lot of people don't really think of, but calipers. Again, these things are Harbor Freight calipers, and I paid like 15 or 20 bucks for them. But these things have really impressed me. My day job is in the engineering world. I'm not an engineer, but I work with them, and I use things like calipers a lot. And these things, for as much as I use them, are gonna do me just as well as a nice pair of Starretts. So the last of kind of the baseline things that you need to be able to work on your own guns is right up here, and that is hammers. I have a lot of different hammers. Why do I have all these hammers? Well, first of all, they're cheap and I like tools. Secondly, because each one of them kind of serves its own purpose. This one is really lightweight and it's really dirty. I don't use this one much. It just kind of sits back behind there. But you've got hammers for finish work with rubber and plastic on them. You've got dead blow hammers, again with plastic. This one I've used multiple times to get the magwell off of my 1911, and it works great. This is just a Pittsburgh 1-pound dead blow. And these, again, are more Harbor Freight tools. Little 8-ounce mini hammers. They're really nice. They're short, so you don't have to use big, long, sweeping blows. You can get really nice, finite work in there. And I'm a really big fan of these particular hammers. I'm really glad that I got these. But good hammers. Some punch sets come with them, some don't, but even if you do have a punch set with them, sometimes you're just going to need a BFH. So it's a good idea to have a wide variety of different hammers that you can utilize for the different projects that you're going to come across. And of course, you need something while you're using those hammers and punches and different tools to be able to set your item on, especially with punches and pins, to be able to push those pins through, and that would be a bench block. This particular one is made by Real Avid. You can find a link in the description below for this one. This particular one is built for 1911s. This right here is the same size as a 1911 barrel. Down here on the bottom, it's got a wrench for the barrel bushing. It's a nifty little block. It has done me well. A couple of the nice features are this is hard plastic on the inside and a rubber on the outside rather than the hard plastic that the entire wheeler block is made of. And it does also have magnets down here on the inside. So if you're pounding a pin and a pin pops through, you're not going to lose it. It's going to pop right on the side of your block. So that's it for most of the everyday average Joe tools that you're going to end up needing if you start working on your own stuff. That bunch of stuff should get you pretty well set up to be able to modify the majority of firearms that you're going to come across. Now, you may come across a couple of projects that require a little bit more. For instance, a CZ custom disconnector requires you to get rid of one of these little wings, in which case you're going to need a bastard file. Something to be able to take off a lot of material with one swipe. Also, a good vise is really nice. I really like this little machining vise that I've got here. I believe this is like for a drill press or something like that. They sell these at Harbor Freight for super cheap. I can probably find an Amazon link to be able to put in the description down below. The nice thing about this is it does a lot of different things. I can hold slides in here, I can hold barrels in here, I can hold frames in here. I can take a magazine, plop a magazine in there, and be able to use it as a pistol stand. It just does a lot of different things, and it's extremely versatile. My particular one is not bolted down. I need to bolt it down. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, because that means I've got to drill holes in the bench here, and it's a long process I haven't gotten to yet. So far, this has worked pretty well. So something else that you may kind of look into, and I've got a couple here that I end up using, is something really hard to hit against. This happens to be a gear from work, and well, it's hardened steel and it works really well for doing things like staking on. And this here is a chunk of aluminum. So I end up using this a lot of the times to be able to drive really difficult pins out. I don't even know where I got this hunk of aluminum, but this thing is awesome for being able to pound out really stubborn pins. And a nice bunch of pliers are really nice. These particular ones are Cobalts. This is actually my favorite kind of brand name auto mechanic tools. I love these things. I've got a whole Cobalt set that I use for car repair. They're really nice tools, really sturdy, well made. They've got really good grip down here. They're nice and solid, and they've worked really well for me. I end up using this when I do CZ trigger springs. It's really easy to get that trigger spring clamped down in here and shove it down in there so I can get that pin through it. And that is pretty much it, guys, for the baseline tools that you're going to need to be able to do your at-home gunsmithing. Remember, again, I'm not a gunsmith, I just play one on YouTube, so take all of this with a grain of salt. But as you guys have seen, I have gotten quite a bit of stuff done with the tools that you just saw. So what are some tools that you would recommend that I add to my collection here? Are there any brand names that you guys who do this on a regular basis prefer over other brand names? Go ahead and comment down below. Let everybody know, give everybody some tips, and let's help people get this stuff done on their own. So let's support everybody, let's give everybody an idea of what they can do to help themselves out. Remember guys, I appreciate every one of you, and until next time, do your research, get informed, and get to work.